Professor Dr. William Harrison told me, "This thesis doesn't meet academic standards, and your lifestyle doesn't suit this university," as he threw the file onto his desk. My 3-year doctoral work was being rejected with one sentence. But when I saw the same study published as an award-winning article under his name 8 months later, I knew it was time to submit the audio recordings I had secretly made to the University Ethics Committee. My name is Dr. Adrian Foster, 29 years old, a young researcher trying to complete a doctorate in biomedical engineering at Stanford University. More precisely, I was trying to, until my advisor, Professor Dr. William Harrison's homophobic prejudices and academic theft destroyed my dreams. That cold January morning, in one of Stanford's iconic red-roofed buildings, I sat in Harrison's corner office waiting for the result of my 3-year effort. His office walls were covered with articles from prestigious journals, awards, and photographs. 58-year-old Harrison was a respected name in the academic world with pioneering work in the biomedical field. On his desk lay my doctoral thesis, Investigation of the Effects of CRISPR-Cas9 System on Neurodegeneration Processes in Alzheimer's Disease. 324 pages, 3 years of laboratory work, innovative methodology, and promising results. "Adrian," Harrison began, adjusting his glasses, "I want to talk to you about your thesis." "Of course, Professor Harrison. How did you find the results?" Harrison leaned back in his chair and looked at me for a long time. There was a cold expression in his eyes, a distance I had never seen before. "Adrian, this thesis doesn't meet academic standards," he said in a harsh voice. My heart rate accelerated. "What do you mean, Professor? The methodology went through peer review. My findings are reproducible. The results are statistically significant." "This isn't about methodology," Harrison interrupted. "There are deeper problems." "What problems?" Harrison stood up and walked toward the window. Looking at the snowy view of the campus, he spoke. "Adrian, Stanford is a prestigious institution. Our students here need to, how should I put it, represent our university's values." I could sense where this was going, but I couldn't believe it. "Professor, is there a problem with academic quality?" Harrison turned and walked toward me. "Adrian, your lifestyle doesn't suit this university." There it was. He had finally revealed his homophobic prejudice. After the photo of me and my husband David at a Pride event was posted on social media last year, I had noticed Harrison's attitude toward me changing. He became colder in meetings, more critical of my projects, more distant toward my suggestions. "Professor, what does my sexual orientation have to do with my academic work?" "Everything has a connection, Adrian. This university has an image, a reputation. The position of our graduates in society is important." He threw the file onto his desk. "This thesis is rejected. You're being removed from the doctoral program." I was shocked. My 5-year graduate education, countless nights spent in the laboratory, the innovative findings I had obtained. Everything was being thrown away because of a homophobic professor's prejudice. "This isn't legal, Professor. It's against university policies." Harrison smiled. "Adrian, in the academic world, professors' decisions are absolute. Your thesis is scientifically inadequate. That's it." "Where is the scientific inadequacy? Which data is wrong? Which analysis is flawed?" "This conversation is over, Adrian. Pack your things and leave the department." As I left my laboratory that day, memories of the last 3 years flashed before my eyes. I had found innovative ways to use CRISPR-Cas9 technology in Alzheimer's disease. I had succeeded in correcting mutations that cause protein accumulation in neuron cells. This work could give hope to thousands of Alzheimer's patients. But now everything was ending, because a homophobic professor couldn't accept who I was. On my way home, I told my husband David about the situation. David was a final-year law student at Stanford and very knowledgeable about LGBTQ+ rights. "Adrian, This is clear discrimination. We can file a lawsuit, he said. David, these things are complicated in the academic world. As Harrison said, professors' decisions are usually considered absolute. But is your thesis really of good quality? Absolutely. I developed my methodology for 3 years. Our experiments are reproducible. My findings are statistically significant. Harrison knows this. David looked thoughtful. Are you recording your conversations with Harrison? No. Why would I need to record them? Adrian, if this discrimination continues, you'll need evidence. David's words made sense, but it was too late. Harrison had already expelled me. The next month, I noticed something strange. A new doctoral student had started in Harrison's laboratory, Timothy Walker. Timothy was someone who, like Harrison himself, appeared conservative, heterosexual, with traditional values, and Timothy's research topic sounded very familiar. Use of CRISPR technology in neurodegenerative diseases. This couldn't be a coincidence. Harrison had given my research area to someone else. A few months later, when I left Stanford and started a new doctoral program at Berkeley, I continued to follow developments in the academic world. News from Harrison's laboratory worried me. Timothy's work was progressing very quickly, achieving important results in a short time. This seemed suspicious because such research normally took years. 6 months later, shocking news came. Harrison and Timothy had published a revolutionary article in Science magazine, Prevention of Neurodegeneration in Alzheimer's Disease with CRISPR-Cas9, a new therapeutic approach. After reading the article, I was stunned. This was my thesis. Same methodology, same experiments, same findings, even same results. Only the names had changed. Harrison had stolen my 3-year research and published it under his own name. Worse yet, the article had made a big impact. Harrison was giving talks at international conferences, receiving awards, being introduced in the media as the scientist who broke new ground in Alzheimer's research. My dream, my effort, my discovery, all were serving Harrison's career. That night David and I discussed the situation. Adrian, this is clear theft. You definitely need to file a lawsuit. But how can I prove it? Harrison knows the details of my research. He can easily make it seem like he did it himself. Do you have a copy of your thesis? Of course, but Harrison rejected it. It would be considered officially invalid, David thought. Is your research process documented? Laboratory records, experiment notes, email correspondence? Yes, everything is available. But it's still difficult to prove that Harrison stole my ideas. Adrian, we need professional legal help. This isn't just about patent rights, it could also be a discrimination case. The next week we met with a specialized law firm in Berkeley. Lawyer Lisa Rodriguez had experience in both intellectual property and discrimination cases. Mr. Foster, Lisa said while reviewing the files, you have strong evidence. The date of your thesis, documentation of your research process, and the similarity between Harrison's article are clear. But Harrison had rejected my thesis. Wouldn't that count as evidence in his favor? No, quite the opposite. His rejecting your thesis on invalid grounds, then presenting the same research as if he did it himself, is suspicious. This can be interpreted as planned theft. What about the discrimination part? That's more complex. Do you have recordings of Harrison's homophobic statements? Unfortunately, no. Then we need witness statements. Did other people in the department see Harrison treating you with prejudice? I thought about this. Harrison usually made his discriminatory remarks in private meetings, but a few people might have noticed his attitude change toward me. Lisa continued. We can file 2 different lawsuits. One for intellectual property theft, the other for discrimination. Both together create a strong case. How long will it take? Academic. Litigation takes a long time, at least 1-2 years. But if our case is strong, Harrison and Stanford might want to settle. We began the lawsuit process. The first step was sending a formal complaint to Stanford. Lisa prepared a detailed file for the university's ethics committee. Harrison's rejection of my research on unjustified grounds. His publishing the same research under his own name. His homophobic discrimination throughout the process, violation of my intellectual property rights. The file included the original version of my thesis, Harrison's article, all documents from the research process, and similarity analysis. Stanford's response came 6 weeks later. The university stated they had started an internal investigation and took the matter seriously, but they said the process would be conducted confidentially and they couldn't share details about the outcome. This wasn't enough. Lisa began preparing to file a lawsuit in federal court. During this process, an unexpected development occurred. Sophie Martinez, my former laboratory colleague at Stanford, called me. "Adrian, I want to talk about your problem with Harrison." "About what, Sophie?" "I saw how Harrison treated you, and I also know how he stole your research." This was support I hadn't expected. Sophie was a PhD student still working in Harrison's laboratory. "Sophie, talking about this could be risky for you." "Adrian, this is the right thing to do. What Harrison did is immoral. You're an excellent researcher and you suffered injustice because of his prejudices." With Sophie's testimony, our case strengthened. She had observed Harrison's attitude change toward me, heard his homophobic statements, and even seen him transfer details of my research to Timothy. While starting the lawsuit process, I continued working in my new doctoral program at Berkeley. My new advisor, Professor Dr. Elena Rodriguez, was very supportive and aware of my situation at Stanford. "Adrian," she had said, "academic theft is unfortunately common, but your situation involves both discrimination and theft. This is very serious." With Elena's support, I started a new research project at Berkeley. This time the topics were different, but I could use my expertise in gene therapy. 6 months later, the academic impact of Harrison's article had grown even more. He was writing editorial pieces in prestigious journals like Nature and Cell, receiving large grants from the National Institutes of Health, and his name was even being mentioned for the Nobel Prize. Harrison, whose fame was at its peak with my effort, was a homophobic professor who had tried to expel me from the academic world. But things were about to change. The federal lawsuit Lisa prepared was very detailed. Foster versus Harrison and Stanford University was based on 2 main charges: sexual orientation discrimination, intellectual property theft, and copyright infringement. The lawsuit file was 400 pages long and full of devastating evidence. 7% similarity between my original thesis and Harrison's article, complete documented chronology of my research process. Sophie Martinez's witness statement. Other students' statements about Harrison's homophobic attitude, expert testimony. 2 independent academics had analyzed the similarities between Harrison's article and my thesis. Harrison's first reaction was denial. His lawyers claimed coincidental similarity, but the evidence was too strong. Stanford was also in a difficult position. The prestigious university didn't want to be associated with such a scandal. 3 months after the lawsuit process began, bombshell news exploded in the academic world. Science magazine put Harrison's article under investigation status. Other journals also began reviewing Harrison's past publications. Harrison's career began to collapse. During this process, the media also began showing interest in the case. Scientific American published a long article titled "Academic Theft" and "Homophobia, a Stanford Scandal." Chronicle of Higher Education featured Harrison on the cover. Most importantly, my story inspired other LGBTQ+ academics. Other students who had experienced similar discrimination began coming forward. 8 months later, Stanford's internal investigation concluded. The university removed Harrison from his position for serious misconduct. They canceled his tenure and expelled him from the university. Timothy Walker's PhD was also cancelled because it was proven that he was complicit in academic dishonesty. Harrison's fall from grace was dramatic. His awards were revoked, his grants were cancelled, other universities rejected his job applications. When the federal lawsuit concluded, the jury unanimously decided in my favor. $2.3 million compensation for discrimination, $4.7 million damages. For intellectual property theft, $1.8 million punitive damages, $650,000 legal fees. Total, $9.48 million, but money was just the beginning. The real victory was achieving justice in the academic world. Harrison's stolen article was retracted. Science magazine published a formal retraction and accused Harrison of academic misconduct. My original research gained recognition. With the support of my new advisor Elena at Berkeley, we updated my work and published it in the prestigious Nature Biotechnology. This time with proper credit, proper authorship. The article made a big impact. The Alzheimer research community recognized my work, and I began giving talks at important conferences. 1 year later, I received my PhD from Berkeley. At the graduation ceremony, David was beside me. He had also received his law degree and become a civil rights attorney. Adrian, David said after the graduation ceremony, you didn't just defend your own rights, you became an example for the entire LGBTQ+ academic community. This journey was difficult but worth it, I said. People like Harrison must be held accountable. After graduation, I received job offers from several universities. A postdoctoral position at Harvard Medical School, a research scientist role at MIT, a faculty position at UCSF. I finally chose Harvard. It offered both a prestigious and progressive environment regarding LGBTQ+ inclusion. On my first day at Harvard, I hung 2 certificates on my office wall, my PhD diploma and the federal court's victory judgment. Both were symbols of a long struggle. 6 months later, I received an unexpected email from Harrison. Adrian, I want to apologize for what we went through. The discrimination and academic theft I committed are unforgivable. I always knew you were a brilliant scientist, but my prejudices clouded my judgment. I offer my best wishes for your career. William. I didn't respond to this email. Harrison's apology was too little, too late. But his downfall was complete. He was permanently banned from the academic world, his reputation destroyed, facing legal consequences. Meanwhile, was thriving at Harvard. I established my research laboratory, received funding, and most importantly, began mentoring. Mentoring LGBTQ+ students was my priority. I taught them how to succeed in the academic world, how to protect their rights. Always document everything. I would tell my students, discrimination is common in the academic world, but you can fight it with evidence. 2 years later, the Harrison case became a landmark case in academic literature. It was being taught as a case study in law schools, referenced in ethics courses. Additionally, my victory led to policy changes. Stanford implemented new guidelines, detailed justification for PhD thesis rejections, student rights protection mechanisms, anonymous reporting systems for discrimination, faculty training on LGBTQ+ inclusion. These changes spread to other universities. The most important development was that my research created real-world impact. CRISPR-based Alzheimer therapy entered clinical trials. Phase 1 studies showed promising results. Perhaps we could soon help actual patients. Science magazine made me a cover story. From discrimination to discovery. How one scientist's fight for justice led to medical breakthrough. The article detailed my journey. From homophobic discrimination to academic theft, from legal battle to scientific vindication. Dr. Foster's case shows that diversity in science is not just an ethical imperative, but also an innovation engine, the author wrote. On the magazine's cover was my photo, working in the laboratory. Caption: Justice and Discovery, The Adrian Foster story. This recognition was overwhelming but also made me feel responsible. David and I founded the Adrian Foster Foundation. It provided scholarships to LGBTQ+ students, offered legal support in discrimination cases, and promoted academic inclusion. The foundation's first grant was symbolic: a research fund for LGBTQ+ students at Stanford. Ironically, Harrison's former laboratory was now dedicated to inclusive research. 3 years later, I received a tenure-track faculty position at Harvard. I had become one of the youngest associate professors. At my tenure review meeting, Department Chair Professor Margaret Thompson said, "Adrian, your scientific contributions are outstanding, but what's most impressive is your courage. Your fight for academic justice is an example to the entire community." That day when I came home, I said to David, "You know, when Harrison tried to destroy me, he actually did me a favor. If he hadn't discriminated, I might never have become this strong." "You were always strong, Adrian," David said. "The circumstances just gave you the opportunity to prove it. But most importantly, this journey helped other people too." Harrison's case became a precedent. Finally, last month I received an invitation from Stanford. I was asked to give the keynote speech at the launch event of their new diversity initiatives. It was ironic. The university that expelled me for homophobic reasons was now inviting me as a diversity champion. I concluded my speech like this: discrimination unfortunately still exists in the academic world. But every student seeking justice should know, documentation, persistence, and legal action are powerful tools. Fight for your rights, because you're not just fighting for yourself, but for future generations. The audience gave a standing ovation. There were several LGBTQ+ students in the crowd, tears in their eyes. Later at the reception, a young PhD student approached me. "Dr. Foster, your story inspired me. I'm also facing discrimination, but now I know what to do." "Remember," I told him, "science seeks truth, and truth always wins, but you have to fight for it." Driving home that evening, passing through Stanford campus, I saw Harrison's former building. Now other professors work there, in an inclusive environment. Harrison, meanwhile, had completely disappeared from the academic world. Last I heard, he was teaching high school in a small town, completely irrelevant. I was thriving at Harvard, expanding research, mentoring students, and most importantly, continuing to fight for academic justice. Sometimes injustice tries to destroy you. But if you stand strong, gather evidence, and use the legal system, you not only achieve justice, but also pave the way for future generations. I had done exactly that, and my story had become a landmark in the academic world. The message is clear. Discrimination should not be tolerated, academic theft should be prosecuted, and LGBTQ+ scientists belong in the academic world. Because science gains strength from diversity, innovation is born from inclusion, and justice always prevails.